CGR, different types of pipe. And before I start, I would like to express my sincere thanks to my HOD for giving me this opportunity talking about aluminum, and also the academic section to giving this opportunity. Aluminum is an omnipresent element, and the evolution has bypassed this metal because of some unique physicochemical property. Its chemistry is different. As you can see, it can form aluminum silicate, and the silicate and aluminum, silicate is the condensed silicate is the highest available compound in earth crust, and next is aluminum. Because the life process has not used aluminum in our body or any life process, we don't have any useful function of aluminum. Till now, we don't know any useful function of aluminum. However, because of its excessive presence, it can enter in our body, and it is with there very much. It uses different types of transporter system which are not dedicated to aluminum, dedicated for something else, but aluminum can use those for this for their entry. However, the body does not recognize its presence, and there is no specific elimination system for the aluminum. So it uses the piggyback concept, it uses an opportunistic transport systems so that it can enter and remain there. Particularly, it goes into bones, and it is included, like a few other metals, it is included as bone seekers. Even if it is high presence, for long, human civilization didn't know the use of aluminum. But once it is known, once it is identified and extracted pure form, we are continuously increasing the use of aluminum. And as you can see, over 60 million tons of aluminum were produced worldwide in 2023. Because of its same unique chemical properties, it can be recycled. One third of this, around 20 million tons of aluminum are being recycled in 2023. Still, 40 million tons of aluminum production is big, and that aluminum being used in different areas of our life. Here, another important feature of aluminum I would like to mention: indefinite species. Aluminum silicate, just now I have mentioned and I have shown you the structure, but that structure is indefinite. As you can see, it uses X, Y, Z for aluminum oxide, silicon dioxide, as well as water. Different species of aluminum is possible. Aluminum hydroxide also can be of different species. Compound, metal compound, metal oxide compound can be of different species. Because of this, their activities are also different. Here another thing, I just wanted to highlight the E number, which is given to those contaminants which are naturally present and being used as adjuvant in food. European Community, European Free Trade Association, European Union, they have used this E number. So aluminum silicate is freely used, freely available in different food and being used as food adulteration. The geochemical cycle of aluminum is interesting. Here, as you can see, I have mentioned two plants. One is tea and another is coffee. They are the aluminum accumulator, and they accumulate in their leaves from atmosphere. Aluminum is available through the acid rain. It is increased, availability is increased, it's leached into the solutes, into the surface, and then with human activities, extraction and utilization of aluminum in different physical form. I'll come to that later. Just aluminum availability is increased. Still, we don't have any use in our life process for the aluminum. Some toxic effects are known. In personal hygiene products, aluminum use of aluminum is known for long. Antiperspirant, deodorant, crystal alum, talcum powder, toothpaste, sun protection, lotion. Many uses. Like almost all the personal hygiene products, they have some forms of aluminum, including cosmetics. As you can see, I don't want to mention that way. However, foundation, blush, eyeliner, eyeshadow, all of them, they have some way of some form of aluminum. That even the room fresheners, they are also being aluminum hull. In fast foods, packed foods and drinks, beverages, already I have mentioned about tea, coffee. Sometimes to keep them used as a preservatives, we know we look for the whitest flour, wheat flour, and that whitening is done by aluminum. We look for the free flow salts. That free flow is by the aluminum salt. Preservatives, shelf life enhancer, all the supplements, all the nutritional supplements, they are now added in some form of aluminum. And unfortunately, we don't have any rules and regulation to control or even to mention that aluminum has been added. I have given a picture taken in my table, my working table, and I was having that. You can see the presence of aluminum, and nicely we are taking pickle, acidic form, which leach aluminum even more. Because of its malleable character, moisture retainer character, lightweight, cheaper, and recyclability, aluminum foil is commonly used. And I believe many of us, we pack those food tiffins for the kids. In foods and ingredients, potato, rice, cereals, some fruits, green vegetables, herbs, some especially sea herbs, spices, seasoned foods, they are specifically aluminum accumulator. Pound cake, pastries, biscuits, khasta hota hai. Like nice, that is because of aluminum. Dark chocolates, other confections, packaged salt, as I have mentioned, rock salt, nutritional supplements, they are either they are having aluminum or they are being added as preservatives, anti-caking agent, sometimes for presentation, nice sweetener, you know, all the sweets, there are some types of silver foil we say, but mostly it's aluminum zirconium, and very badly it is prepared. Coloring agent, aluminum is also present in coloring agents. Not to mention about the medicaments, antacids, very commonly used, phosphate binders, even though it is banned, but our monitoring system is not that good that we can say that it is not there. Buffered aspirins, astringents, vaccine and allergen injections, dental crowns and dentures, sometimes in urology as well as OBG, they use aluminum. Industries, all construction industries, that means any industrial area as we are, cement, aluminum is there. Automotive industry, aviation industry, all the frames, lightweight body, electrical industry, aluminum wire, oil refining, fuel additives, rocket. So nowadays we are sending lot of rockets to, then there the solid fuel is aluminum. Paper and glass industries for whitening agent, cleaning agent, explosive and fireworks aluminum is being used. Paints and dyes are also aluminum present. When we did a PubMed search on aluminum, it started in 1945, availability of aluminum in PubMed, and gradually it is slowly decreasing about the aluminum. Aluminum toxicity, when we searched, the the concept remains same. Gradually it is slowly it's decreasing tendency of presentation. Aluminum toxicity in India, search relatively maintained, it's like 49, 46, 47 year it is being maintained. So some works are going on, but not really substantial. This is the aluminum dynamics, how we get aluminum from different sources. We are getting aluminum, and within body, it's like remain. Once it entered into there, as I have mentioned, we don't have any elimination system, so it's cannot come out easily. And unfortunately, we like to add aluminum in our daily life. We are living in a, I think around 10 to 12 years back, it was named as aluminum age, and because of some economic factor, economic politics, there is not much of government regulation or government control over the use of aluminum. Internalization systems are like, as I have mentioned, it's mostly skin, lungs, and a lot through the GIT, but only 0.1% or even less aluminum is entering into system. That's the best part. Even though we are exposed highly, our systemization is very less. Assimilation is very restricted. It depends on the routes, doses, how much, and accompanying substances like lemon tea, citric acid, very much facilitator, and tea is aluminum accumulator. And then pickles, taking pickles in with aluminum preservatives. These are very few examples, but it depends on like what are the accompanying substances depending on that aluminum assimilation. And as you can see, once it has entered into brain and bone, these two areas, once it has entered, it cannot come out easily. In serum, mostly bound to transferrin. Kidney is very efficient to excrete. Mostly the blood aluminum is being excreted, and some amount of aluminum is excreted through bile. Within the body, it's like, as you can see, skeleton, bone accumulation, bone seeker. That's why the name for aluminum and other metal also, but it's very true for aluminum that it is a bone seeker. There are other soft tissues like muscles, adipose tissue, connective tissue, good amount in skin, but we have mostly known about neurotoxicity of aluminum, which is very less in our body. But the burden is, once it has entered into the neuronal cells, there is no option to come out. Is aluminum toxic? Yes, it is. Whatever may be the dose, once it has entered into the tissues, it cannot come out. So it remains there. It can bind with aluminum. It can bind with the phosphates, and as you know, phosphates are very important biomolecule in our different biomolecules. We have phosphates, and so it can bind with phosphate, and it can bind with DNA histones. So many toxicity it can do. It is toxic for neural, obviously brain and spinal cord, hepatotoxic, bones, lungs, skin, reproductive organs, endocrines, parathyroid, it's toxic, and also it's toxic for the immune system. Early symptoms of aluminum toxicity. There are very few, 1 or 2 reports are available about the early symptoms of aluminum toxicity. But unfortunately, all these symptoms, they don't have any relation with aluminum. So we cannot utilize these symptoms as specified as, okay, these are for aluminum toxicity. So hardly any symptom identifiable for the aluminum toxicity. Later symptoms, which include many things, mostly neuronal, paralytic muscular condition, loss of memory and confusion, Alzheimer's, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, could be anemia, hemolysis, leukocytosis, porphyria, colitis, dental cavities, hypoparathyroidism, kidney dysfunction, liver dysfunction, anything, many means like almost whole body is related. So hardly we can use them as symptoms specific. Okay, this is happening to aluminum toxicity. This is a published list of disorders associated with aluminum diseases, aluminum accumulation in different parts of the body. It's a long list. I'm not going into detail about this. Experimentally, what I have done, it's known that when aluminum is exposed for long chronic toxicity, and we have given 6 weeks of study we have done, and we have seen that it has a dose response in neurotoxicity as well as duration response. So it is dose and time dependent. Initially it's not much effect, but later with 6 weeks of exposure in animal, in rat, we have seen. Cardiotoxicity, not very significant, but some indications of toxicity are observed in cardiotoxicity in autonomic functions. So the questions we are facing, that is there any gender difference? Why we should think of gender difference? If we think of the molecular basis of aluminum toxicity, there are some around 15 or 20 options available where aluminum can do, what aluminum can do toxicity and what mechanisms it can utilize, possible mechanisms. But most interesting is aluminum is a metalloestrogen. It can bind with estrogen receptor. But unfortunately, we don't have any information whether binding with estrogen, it is stopping the reaction, it is working as a blocker for the receptor, or it is stimulating as an agonist, it is working. We don't have much information about this, but it can. So there is a possibility that gender differences could be there in aluminum induced neurotoxicity or any other functions. Is there any acute effect of aluminum with considerable low dose of exposure? High dose, whenever we see aluminum phosphide poisoning, so poisoning wise it's phosphide related problem, not much aluminum establishment is available. However, we would like to see, like, is there any acute effect of aluminum with low dose of exposure? Is there any systemic toxicity response? We could see some cardiotoxicity, some Vague neurotoxicity can be seen in aluminum, acute effect of aluminum, or we can see those things in long term exposure. But in acute exposure, is it possible to identify a systemic toxicity of aluminum? Similarly, is it possible to identify a early symptom for early factor which can suggest that okay, there is a can be possibility of aluminum exposure? We have used a zebrafish model, and where you can see we have given aluminum exposure for 4 days, 96 hours, and we could see that male are more affected, or male could retain the toxicity for more than 96 hours, whereas by 96 hours female zebrafish they could recover to some extent. So there is a categorical proof that there are some gender difference in terms of neurobehavioral toxicity at least, which suggested us that aluminum neurotoxicity can be related to estrogen binding, can be due to its aluminum metalloestrogen activity of aluminum. In female peripubertal rats, where estrogen is like just estrogen receptors, estrogen levels are just developing, body receiving changes, body is adapting changes related to estrogen. There we have found that peripubertal rats, prepubertal rats, not much effect of aluminum in triglyceride. But young adult, we could see that triglyceride is increased, and this dyslipidemia response is also seen in terms of liver triglyceride. So we could suggest that estrogen, prepubertal it is not available, adult it is available. So there is a possibility that aluminum is working through the estrogen receptors. Similarly, we have seen minimum effect or not insignificant effect in total cholesterol, whereas significant effect in case of adult rats. Dose dependence studies and male female difference we wanted to see in young adult rats. There are some cases, at least we could see that the acute toxicity within 15 days exposure and very low dose exposure, 5 milligram, 10 milligram exposure, aluminum can cause a male female differences can be seen, and it can produce dyslipidemia. And with these results, we have proposed that aluminum is producing neurotoxicity through metalloestrogen. Likely proposal is that it can work through the metalloestrogen pathway, and at the same time, if it is working as metalloestrogen, then there will be some reproductive toxicity. We are working on that, and we are seeing some good response, some aluminum induced reprotoxicity. In addition, we have seen that RBC count in both male female as well as MCV, hemoglobin level, then MCV, MCH, MCHC. So aluminum could produce microcytic anemia even within 15 days exposure in animal. Total leukocyte count is decreased, neutrophil count is decreased, and there is an increase in the mononuclear polymorphonuclear ratio, which suggests that even within 15 days of aluminum exposure, 5 or 10 milligram aluminum exposure, however, it is an intraperitoneal exposure, so systematized exposure of aluminum could lead to a generalized inflammatory status in animal. Platelet count was increased. and we have experienced also in blood collection. It's very tough to aluminum exposure blood animals or blood collection. It's very tough. We have seen hepatotoxicity, hepatocyte cells, damage or hepatocyte cells with vacuolation. We have seen in minimum with that systematized low dose exposure. For we have seen increased serum urea level within 15 days and aluminum 10 milligram of aluminum per kg body weight for 15 days. Cardiotoxicity, not very significant result, but there are some disturbances we could see. So it is doing autonomic dysautonomia can be done. So acute toxicity of aluminum with low dose systemic exposure, it can cause derangement in lipid profile, atherogenic indices, can cause microcytic anemia, leukopenia, thrombocytosis, dysautonomia, hepatotoxicity, and nephrotoxicity. There are indication of gender dependency, and which also suggest us that it is because of the maybe through the metalloestrogen property of aluminum. So what we can do as exposed person, we can identify the avoidable sources of aluminum exposure and keep those away from us. As doctor, inclusion of aluminum toxicity as the last and the least option of differential diagnosis in case anything. Thank you very much. In case any question, anybody would like to. I hope no question. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience hearing.